Yes, here we are once again. We're going to be having a very interesting conversation today. I think we're going to be talking about retirement, the R word, and what it really means. And yeah, you may notice the background looks a little bit different today from what you're accustomed to seeing on Coffee Breaks with Steve. And part of that is because I have a guest co host who I think is going to be joining me today if she actually can extract herself from her bed back there. Shalann's going to be back with us today to join this conversation. And we talk about retirement, and what are we really talking about? Are we talking about a life of leisure like that? Or are we talking about a change in status that says we still stay active, might still be working, but it looks different? And for a lot of people, the idea of retirement is not what it used to be a generation or so ago in terms of the timing for that or even the reality of that. So put on the brakes, grab a cup of coffee, and join the conversation because it's time for Coffee Breaks with Steve. All right. Hi, Shalann.
Hi.
You look a little bit, I don't know if it's just because you just rolled out of bed or if it's because as we talk about retirement and you as what do you consider yourself? Are you Gen X or are you a millennial? Or do you choose not to classify yourself?
I am a working person.
Who may or may not someday retire?
Indeed.
So is what I'm sensing from you in your demeanor a little bit of bitterness about the fact that some of the people that you know are retired and enjoying that change in status and you're not there and still have to get up and go to work?
I'm happy for you. I'm also drinking an energy drink. This is not tea. This is straight up like Monster Red Bull. If either company wants to, what's the word? Sponsor Coffee Breaks with Steve. I'll drink it on camera. I'm just saying.
So Shalann happened to be back in town this weekend she had a work event that she had to attend yesterday, or not just attend, but she was actually, what do you call what you were doing yesterday?
I presented.
She was a presenter
It was very professional.
At a university here in town. And so she was going to be here. And I said, well, then guess what? You're co-hosting again. And she was so thrilled to consider doing that again, especially as we talk about retirement. So because I think it is important that we get not only the perspective of people who are retired or are very close to or considering retirement, but I think people
who will never retire.
Well, and that's part of what we're going to talk about, is that there is a change from what those expectations were a generation or so ago. So we are going to talk about that today. But before we get to that, I think that we need to talk about some special days that are coming up this week.
We do.
All right, you enjoy your breakfast there. And we're talking about special days for the week of August 12th through August 18th. And let's see what we got. Oh, you know that today is National Middle Child? You're not the middle child in our family.
No. We could put her up on screen against her will. She is in the background.
Do you want to see the middle child?
No. Wave.
There she is. Carissa, who is our director as well, is the middle child in our family. There you go. Thank you, Carissa. We'll see you in a bit.
All the kids are going to have cameos by the end of this.
By the end of this, let's see, is Christopher on there? We could throw him under the bus too, like we just did with Carissa.
And there's Kristen.
And there we go. But the middle child, I mean, that's an interesting label in and of itself, because so often there are stigmas around the middle child syndrome. You hear about this in terms of how they fit into a family, where they fit into a family.
Hear that, Carissa? You're a stigma.
My sister Carla is the middle child. She's on here. By the way, we haven't said hello to some people yet this morning. Do you want to help me say hello to a few people out here?
Hi, Rick.
Who
Hi,
else?
Carla. Good morning.
Carissa. We've already
Hi,
seen the
Carissa.
Carissas here.
Hi, Rick. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Carla. Hi, Carissa.
And I know there's some other people on here who maybe haven't said hello yet. So again, just a reminder that
Hi,
if you are,
Kim.
there's Kim. What is Kim saying?
Good meowing afternoon and happy Saturday.
That's correct. If you are on here and are willing to run the risk that we may throw you under the bus and put you on screen, no, we can't do that unless you have a camera turned on and you've joined us. But please say hello when you join and come on here so we know you're here. And when we get into our topic, join the conversation. In fact, right now you might be looking at us with some conversation questions of your own, like, what the heck are you people doing today? But
can you guys hear me chew on camera? Let me know, because that would upset me.
I can hear you chew, but you're right next to me. So
I'm just right. I'm right there.
Alan's here. Alan's here. He said there's Alan.
Hi, Alan. Hi, Uncle.
Alan has called in as present. All right, so National Middle Child Day. And I think one of the things about National Middle Child Day, or any time that we think about the middle child, is to take away some of the stigmas and say, a middle child in any family is a special person in many ways. They have to think about a sandwich without having that filling. It's like two pieces of bread. And if you don't have the filling in the middle, it's just two pieces of bread.
And so calling your oldest and youngest child two pieces of bread.
Bread is vital. But we need the filling for the sandwich, and that's where the middle child fits in. I think I better move on because I'm already in enough trouble with this one. Tomorrow, International. I'm actually holding my coffee cup with my left hand.
I'm
today.
not, but guess what? I'm a lefty.
You are a lefty.
But I must hold it all. I must always do it with my right because that feels more natural.
You're more ambidextrous, though, aren't you? Don't you do some things with your left hand and some things with your right?
But I think also you hold something with your right, so you're available to do the more dexty things with your left.
If you're a left-handed, and what do they say? They say that people who are left-handed are the only ones in their right mind because the right side of the brain. Yeah. So if you are a southpaw, if you're a left-hander, tomorrow is for you. It's your special day to celebrate and to acknowledge the fact. I like the fact that anymore there are products out. They're both kind of kitschy types of products, but also I can't talk.
Everybody drink.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've been drinking constantly. Do the right thing.
Yeah. That there are practical items out now that are designed for left-handed people, because we think of certain things as being, if you're right-handed, the majority of people are, we think of certain things as automatically being designed to fit right, but not all items really are practical for left-handed people.
Scissors are rough.
Ergonomic.
Scissors are rough.
Scissors, and they're left-hander scissors now. Yeah. They're left-handed pens. There are left-handed.
That I don't quite get.
I don't quite get, because they're pretty much just the same shape. But I mean, you can get different now practical products that are specifically designed for left-handed people. So I think that's
you should get some left-handed mugs.
Think about this. What if you're a left-handed middle child? This could very well be your week.
Wow.
National Creamsicle. Are you a creamsicle fan? I don't know what they've got, what the speckles are in this picture all over. They kind of look like pepper.
No, I think it's dragon fruit. So
so that's a dragon fruit creamsicle. That's
dragon fruit orange is what I'm
thinking. But I remember growing up, creamsicles primarily were sort of that orange and vanilla flavoring, like a popsicle type of thing. But yeah. Oh, Rick mentions, talking about the left-handed part of it.
I was getting a lot of left-handed love up there.
Yeah, first baseman's gloves could be hard to find. Any kind of baseball gloves. It was hard to sometimes find a left-hander's glove unless you were a professional ball player. And
Rick had to sew one himself.
He had to sew one together himself out
of
up leather
both ways. Ice strapped to his back.
All right.
No shoes.
Moving on. The 15th, August 15th, which is Tuesday, is National
Meringue.
I think it's pronounced
meringue.
I think it's pronounced meringue.
Meringue PA. It's French.
And you know what was interesting is lemon meringue was one of those flavors that I grew up. I wasn't a big fan of the lemon meringue, but I've gotten more used to it. It's still not my immediate go-to. If I'm someplace in a bakery or someplace and they have lemon flavored, pastries of any kind, including lemon meringue pie, I will have to admit that's not my immediate go-to. But if somebody's got a lemon meringue pie and they're serving that, I actually find that I actually enjoy those.
See Kim's comment.
Dragon fruit orange is much more optimistic than
My initial assumption of fruit
Fruit
flies.
flies.
Oh, here's hoping.
Oh, I love it, Kim. Yes, the 16th, Wednesday, National Roller Coaster Day. Now, you and I are both fans of roller
We are.
coasters. And recently, when your nephews were here visiting and you were here with us, we went to a local theme park called Silverwoods in
I
Idaho. It's
got
not
off
far from
work,
here.
like specially to come with you guys to this theme park,
Mhm.
and I've never felt so old.
Well, but you did several roller coasters over the course of the day and a variety of other things with your nephews. You did some water slides and a variety of things. And I think by the end of the day, your body was just saying, I've done a lot. And you and Christopher and Remy went on one more extreme roller coaster at the end of the day. And it
I
just
promised Remy I
you would. And it was like right before the park closed. You
and
were
I
among the
saw
last
good
people.
Lord.
And it was it kind of did you in
It kind of
for the
did.
rest of the night. But I was proud of you for doing it. We got some great videos and pictures of you coming off the roller coaster and basically laying down in the middle of the pavement on the ground
I
and
did
just
that.
kind of dying.
Hoping that the pavement was cold. It was
but-
not, but it was
No,
still better than
still
being
felt
upright.
better than being upright. But
Yeah.
but roller coasters in general, you like roller
I
coasters. You
do.
enjoy them, right?
I do. Which is
Not
weird because usually
everybody is a
I
roller
get
coaster
car
fan.
sick.
Yeah.
Usually roller coasters do not make me car sick. This one did.
Well, sometimes it's because it also affects like your back. It can
Yeah.
knock your back out of your neck and stuff, and that the pinched nerve thing
Yeah.
can cause issues.
The mild
with
concussion part, I
mild
think
concussion.
that might add.
But
to it.
anyway, I'm curious in here. Are you? And I see some people already making some comments. But are you? Are
Inner
you a
ears.
roller coaster fan?
Inner ears.
Inner ear thing. That's part of getting older and trying to do those. I can still do roller coasters, but I can't do as many. I can't do them as many muchly as I used
Look,
to.
Kim, it's different when you're turning upside down and
And
doing the
spinning
roly
and-
polies and everyone's screaming.
And it's going 120
On
feet
purpose.
into the air before
Yeah.
it drops down.
It's
And
different.
most roads that you're on in a car,
Don't
for
do
the most part,
they don't do the loop-de-loop
no.
most of them
Maybe in
don't.
Italy.
In Italy.
All right.
Confusione.
Oh, this one is dear to my heart for a number of reasons, and much of which you and others may know is that I spent a good part of my career in the nonprofit industry, working with nonprofits, and I still do some board work and not bored like I'm bored and tired of doing things, but serving on
clarification.
boards and doing some advising and consulting for nonprofits. But August 17th, which is Thursday, is National Nonprofit Day. And what comes to mind, I don't want to dwell on this, but I don't think we can talk about this without talking about everything that's happening right now in Hawaii, on Maui. And there are some opportunities right now through some, you want to make sure always when you're working with nonprofits or donating that you're checking them out to make sure that they are legitimate and that they're doing good work and that the money is actually going to serve the needs. But there are some great nonprofits right now, some of them domiciled in Hawaii, but others, the American Red Cross and others that right now are serving the needs of the people who've been so severely impacted by the fires in Maui, on Maui, and in other parts of Hawaii, actually. And really, there are just so many different ways that you can support nonprofits. Again, vet them, but to support nonprofits that are really doing great work around the world to make a difference for people. So it's just an opportunity to think about that.
Hi, Carson Jean Dancing Queen.
Carson Jean is on watching. All right, very good. Hi, Carson. I didn't mean to blow the hi Carson like I was blowing that off. Hi Carson, it's great. National Ice Cream Pie Day. Now this one I like because it leaves the flavor options open, but there are places like, we can name some brand names that you can go into, or you can even go into your local grocery stores anymore, and you can get the ice cream pies and ice cream cakes and stuff. And you growing up, you were not a big cake fan.
No.
And so on your birthdays, it was not necessarily unusual that we would do some kind of like an ice cream cake or an ice cream pie.
Do you remember that pie? It was like a tuxedo, or not pie, ice cream cake that was like, and there were commercials for it. It was all new when it came out. And I would always ask for that rectangular ice cream, specific brand that you could get from the store that was like, oh, this is the fancy cake. And I just felt so fancy when we would get this. This particular, if any of you know what this is, it's the ice cream cake that's like.
Unfortunately, we're not celebrating Ice Cream Cake day, but
it's the same
it's
thing.
the same thing, really. We're
Same
talking about ice
thing.
cream molded into a shape that makes it look
Yeah.
like something else.
Yeah.
I'm going to include ice cream cake in our
Cheers.
celebration. Cheers.
Cheers.
Tink. What else? Oh, birthdays. We got to celebrate some birthdays.
Birthdays.
Annalia Young is celebrating a birthday today. Now, Annalia is a dear friend of both
Yes.
you and me.
Mhm.
And Annalia has also come as a guest on Coffee Breaks. You may remember a few months ago, Annalia joined us to talk about etiquette and manners.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that we are acknowledging and celebrating Annalia's birthday today. Happy birthday, Annalia. And then Scott Platt is celebrating a birthday this week. What?
We could throw him in. Scott, get down
here.
here.
We could throw him under the bus because Scott and his wife Jody are actually visiting us this weekend. They're right upstairs. But Scott will be, and we kind of celebrated yesterday. We took Scott and Jody out for a day of fun. We went to Lake Coeur d'Alene. We took a boat cruise around the lake, and then we went to one of our favorite restaurants in this area, Wolf Lodge Inn, which Scott and Jody had never been to before, and celebrated Scott's birthday with some amazing steaks.
Rocky Mountain oysters.
And we did actually, one of the appetizers, and I did throw Scott and Jody and your mom under the bus and force them to eat that as an appetizer. If you don't know what Rocky Mountain oysters are, you can look it up later.
Lodge.
Come to Wolf Lodge. I'll be glad to throw you under the bus too. And then,
where are you getting all these buses? So many buses.
There are a lot of buses. Let's see, if you're into public transportation, it's not hard to find them.
Okay.
But and then Roberta Thompson. Roberta Thompson is your mom, my wife Carol. Your mom, Carol. This is her. No, it's not. She's not. Let me rephrase this.
Okay.
I was setting it up.
Yeah.
But Roberta is Aunt Roberta. This is your mom's aunt, whose birthday is. I really
have I
need
ever
more
met
coffee.
Aunt Roberta?
You may
I've heard
have.
all
I think
about her.
at your grandma Marion's funeral memorial service, Aunt Roberta and Uncle Mel were at that
and
memorial.
They're the ones
and
you
I
guys
think they came
stayed
to.
With, right?
Yeah, they live in Eugene, Oregon, and we had a chance to visit with them
They
on our
sound
move
so
up here from
cute.
California.
They had stories.
They're amazing. So Aunt Roberta celebrating a birthday this next week on Thursday as well. So happy birthday to Annalia and Scott and Aunt Roberta. And if you have a special day this week that we did not include, I say we because I'm going to say that if we didn't include it, it's Chelan's fault. That if you have a special day this week that was not included in our recognition here, please put it in the chat so that we can make sure that we acknowledge and celebrate with you. And if you've got a special day coming up within the next few weeks, perhaps the rest of August or into September at some point, you can send an email to let us. I know we're getting close to halfway through the month of August.
It's just so weird.
Well, there's a lot of things in life that are weird, Chelan. But anyways, do send us that information so we can make sure that we acknowledge that with you. Okay, we're back. Here we are. We're back big. And I want to talk about our topic today. I want to talk a little bit about retirement, the R word. Now, to set this up a little bit, Carol and I officially retired about a year and a half ago, a little over a year and a half ago.
I'm not jealous. It's fine.
I know. And that's the point at which we moved from California to Spokane, Washington, for a variety of reasons. One was cost of living in California compared to this region, and switching to a retirement income, et cetera. Part of it was, we didn't really have a lot of family in California. More of our families in the Pacific Northwest, and we wanted to be up close to family. We were very fortunate. We have very, very wonderful, close family members here in Spokane that we have the opportunity now to live very, very near and do a lot of things with. And you're much closer now. Your home is only a few hours drive away compared to having to
You realize you follow me around the country. You didn't follow me to Minneapolis, but I moved to California. You moved to California. I moved to Washington. You moved to Washington.
You didn't really move to California. You were going to college in California. We were paying for a lot of that.
That's true.
So
you moved me to California and also then
yeah. But anyway, so when we made the choice to retire, when we first talked about retirement, we were much younger. And part of it was, how do we manage our careers to be able to save toward ultimately being able to retire? We were very fortunate that we were able to do so around what most people would consider a normal retirement age.
Yeah.
but it's not as straightforward as it used to be. It used to be that people turned 65 and they retired. In some cases, it was just automatic within their jobs, their industry.
Right.
It might even have been a requirement. And there are still, I think, some occupations where there's
Right.
a mandatory retirement age, but you don't see that as much. And the reality is there are people who are still working well into their 70s and in some cases even their 80s.
Yeah.
And there has been this sort of two sides of a coin trend. There has been a trend in recent times for some people to work really hard in order to retire quite early,
Right.
right? Retiring in their 40s, 30s or 40s. And sometimes they're doing, retirement is not completely doing away with an income, but they are changing from working in a corporate setting or working for someone else to doing,
Flexibility and their
having
own
more
thing.
flexibility. The other trend is for people to work much longer than into their mid 60s. And
Yeah.
one of the things that has happened is even Social Security used to be back in the day, Social Security, everybody's retirement age was age 65. And as Social Security started to change a few years ago, and part of that was, you hear all these things all the time about Social Security's running out of money,
Right.
or is going to run out of
I'm
money.
certainly not counting on
And,
it.
and they've said that for quite a while. And of course, the government has ways of, well, we can shift money from here and put it into, or if we're being realistic, back into Social Security, where it was supposed to be before the government pulled some of that money out. But they refer to it as, what do they refer? It's an entitlement. It's not really an entitlement if you think about the fact that we're all paying into Social Security. If you work anywhere, what is Rick saying?
That's interesting.
Since retiring 23 years ago at age 60, I've worked 5 different jobs, 4 times doing consultant work at different vocational training programs for adults with disabilities, twice for the Census Bureau, 10 years apart. And that's kind of, well, I'll get into this in a couple of minutes, but that's kind of like what Carol and I are doing at this point. But there are different reasons why people are not necessarily retiring in their 60s. And one is some people just prefer to continue working. They're like, I'm not ready to stop working. I want to stay active. And I mean, you can stay active doing a variety of things. It doesn't have to be.
Look at Judi Dench. She will
I like to look at Judi Dench. She's amazing. She is a treasure.
She is a international treasure. But she just like, she doesn't have to work.
No.
She's multimillionaire.
Well,
but it's fun. But I don't blame her.
I don't blame her. And I mean, I don't blame anybody. You don't have to be in the entertainment industry. No.
Who can I blame?
You blame whoever you want
to. If you want to be blamed, let me know.
Yeah, put it in the chat so that but there, and I'm seeing a variety of things out here about retirement and even about Social Security, and Carla's right. I mean, there are things that we could get into.
I don't know where I broke it. I wanted to show Kim's comment up on the screen.
Yeah, we can do that. But I think Kim's point is relevant to a lot of people. And again, it can be because of necessity or it can be because of choice. But there was an article I'm going to quote from, and I'm going to put the I'm going to, if I can copy it, I think I may already have copied it, but I don't remember if I did. I'm going to put the link to this article in the chat, and we'll highlight it later because I always want to give credit where credit's due. But this was from MarketWatch a while back, and it says, I'm going to read the first part of this. Says almost half of baby boomers and more than 1/3 of Generation X expect to work past age 70 or do not plan to retire at all, highlighting the need for backup plans in case life's unexpected events get in the way of such goals. According to a study by the nonprofit Transamerica Center for Retirement Studies, in collaboration with the Transamerica Institute, 49% of baby boomers, and that's the category I fall into, expect to or already have extended their working lives past 70 or do not plan to retire. Their reasons for doing so are most as likely to be their health, 78%, or their finances at 82%. And we can refer to some other things here, but they mentioned before that there are quite a few Gen X people who will fall into that. And I would say probably that's going to extend to generations still coming up and into the workforce. But I'm curious from the people who are tuning in, and we're already seeing some comments, but Number one, are you already retired? And if so, what does retirement mean to you? Does retirement mean not working at all and it's just a life of leisure and you're just doing your thing? You're out, you sit out. I mean, I don't want to stereotype this, but we
Right.
think of retirement sometimes as
Sit
now
on the porch.
sit on the porch or
Yell at the
going fishing,
neighbors.
yell at the neighbors, traveling, spending time with family, etc. And your revenue stream, your retirement income is sufficient to cover all of that. Is that retirement to you? Is retirement, go ahead, you were going to say something.
No.
Is retirement more, I'm now shifting from, I worked for other people for my entire career, and I'm now shifting to being able to do part-time work, or I'm shifting to doing, like Rick mentioned, doing consulting work or doing more independent things, and as needed, you get some extra income or as wanted. Now, I will say, Carol and I retired a little over a year and a half ago. And we took some time after retirement to say, we know right at this point, our retirement funds are covering all of our basic expenses. We're very privileged and blessed because that is the case. Our Social Security, pension plans, etc., covering all our pension plans, monthly expenses, our mortgage, our food, our transportation, our utility bills, all of the things that come up with some cushion for the unexpected things that may come up. But we have chosen now, after about a year and a half of taking that time to kind of reorganize and resettle, to both of us look for opportunities to bring in some extra income.
Right.
And it's not because we need it, it's because we do have some plans and some desire
The freedom. You
to
want the
travel.
freedom
We have some
without
places
the
we still
pressure.
want to go, yeah, and not have to dip into savings and other things.
I've got some. So, as you know, as you probably know, I work at a simulation center at a medical university. So we run all of the scenarios for the students to practice, and we have several retirees who are simulated patients. I'm retired now. There, right? Versus when you were working for them, you used it for evil or whatever the company said. But we have one who's just like, I do this because every paycheck that she gets, it goes to her cruising fund. Like this is her vacation fund, what she gets from us from doing simulated patient work. And I also have some friends who were baby boomers that I worked with who, like, none of my baby boomer friends are retired. I mean, you're my friend, but also dad. But one of them is because their husband has, well, both of them, their husbands have health issues. So it's like they're having to make sure that they keep the income going. But one of them, it was really interesting because she said, I retired in my 20s. Like she and her husband lived it backwards. They were really wealthy for a while. They got to do all of the fun stuff.
Yeah.
And then a couple of financial drops later, they're going to be working the rest of their lives. And that really stuck with me. I think my plan is probably, there's no pension plan for me, is my guess. My plan is to work in the things I enjoy throughout my life. And hopefully I end up in a place that I just enjoy being there. And so it won't feel like pressure when I have to work.
So here's the other question that comes up. And this was another place where your mom and I were the benefit literally helped us. And it was part of the reason that we moved to California when we did 16, 17 years ago. And mom took it wasn't specifically to follow you. And mom took the job that she did at the time because the company she went to work for in California, not only were the upfront benefits, the pay and other benefits that came with that job significant, but the retirement benefits, including a very, very substantial pension plan, 401k plan, et cetera, that allowed us to put aside our own money, but also the company did a lot of both matching and independent funding that as we looked at it, we went, okay, this is going to be our opportunity to truly retire.
Yeah.
We were among those baby boomers who along the way, we would dip into we would work for companies that had retirement plans, but there was always something that we were pulling, either borrowing from or actually pulling from those plans early for, kids' college funds or to help cover a home mortgage.
We just did
or
that
others.
For the first time. Yeah. So Dustin had a 401k from a previous job that for a while he couldn't roll it over. And I realized as we're talking about this, our dream isn't retirement. Our dream is debt free.
Mhm.
So he just took out the entire 401k that he had.
Yeah.
And threw it at our debt. And like, I think now he's
And-
at home while I'm here calculating and carrying the two and dividing by pi to see what
Yes.
that did to our debt. But yeah, I don't think I might dream of retirement after the debt free, but I'm realizing I haven't even thought about retirement because debt free it's got to happen first before I could even consider.
Well, and the other key thing, and I'm going to highlight another comment here because it's tied to this, but another key reason that we did what we did in moving to California and mom taking that position and were able to retire were both the health benefits that the job provided. She was working for a healthcare company.
Right.
And that one of the key benefits was the knowledge at the time that when we retired, because of that job, the health benefits that we were able to enjoy during her employment would carry us through retirement the rest of our lives. We would still be able to have that level of health care coverage, which we have in retirement. It's our Medicare and Medicare supplement that is covered substantially. I mean, we still pay a premium, but it is substantially less than what it would cost us to be covering. And Kathy mentions this. And it brings up an interesting point, and that is, so you're going, okay, I either choose to continue to work, or particularly if you have to continue to work for financial reasons past retirement age or through life. There are some people who plan on or expect that they must work for the rest of their lives until they drop over. But what happens if circumstances, your health situation, some health situation makes it impossible or at least impractical to continue working? And I think that's a fear for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have to be my age to have that be a concern.
Yeah. And just even the piece with, if, what was I gonna say, that the health element of it, it's not just that you would have to continue where you are, right? I don't have many health issues myself right now, so it's not like I'm just have to maintain my same income and I'd have to figure out a way to make that work. It's on top of that, all the health care prices and all of that. So
yeah.
And
Carla's mentioning, I worked in the nonprofit industry. I was very fortunate that by the time, bless you,
thank you,
I was working in nonprofits, and most of the nonprofits that I worked for did have some type of a plan that you could contribute to, and in many cases was being matched by the organization. That's not true it's not true in a lot of nonprofit organizations. It's also not necessarily true even for a lot of particularly smaller companies. Right. Now, a lot of companies have tried to make adjustments if they are set up in such a way that they can provide, matching funds for 401ks or other benefits, both to attract workers. It's just one of those things now that attracts good workers, but also in recognition of the fact that it used to be that you just kind of counted on Social Security. Mm-hmm. And there's no certainty there. And I'll be quite honest. I mean, Social Security, that's helpful. Your mom and I, if we didn't have other retirement funds that had come through, particularly her last employment, the Social Security would not be sufficient. We would now have to work. And I mean, a number of other people are mentioning this in the chat and in the comments. And let me just say this at the time. This is one of those topics that it's like you could almost walk away from this going, well, now I'm depressed.
Yeah.
Now it's not about trying to make it more depressing. It's about looking at the practicalities.
I don't think you can make it more depressing, Dad.
Well, that's probably true. But I also think part of this is, so what are the options? And I think, one of the things, this almost sounds, I don't know, it sounds overly simplistic or kind of trite, but we all have opportunities to kind of look out for each other. And that's another thing that you're seeing happen, I think, in modern times. It's not part of our topic today specifically, but as people are living longer, that you have people who are in the golden years of their life, and maybe they did choose to retire, or maybe they didn't choose to retire, but health and other situations have made it more difficult for them to continue working, that now their adult children who are still active and able to work are having to, depending on how you look at it, take care of their elderly parents, or in some cases grandparents.
I'm counting on a nephew or something
to step in,
or a niece, because I don't have kids because I can't afford
But
them. That's the funny thing.
but even with that there's an extra burden, and there's no guarantee, and there's no
Mhm.
expectation that's necessarily going to
Right,
happen.
right.
In some cultures and in some settings, I mean, there are cultures, other places in the world where having they don't have Social Security in
Right.
certain countries, in certain areas. They don't have pension plans, and so it was just kind of an expectation that generations of families stayed close together,
Yes.
and you worked until you couldn't work anymore, and then the younger generations took you in and took care of you. And I don't know if that's I'm curious about people's responses to that or thoughts about that, because it's not as simple as it sounds either. That
No.
in and of itself creates a lot of questions, but that's one of the things that sometimes we have to now consider
Yeah.
is, do the younger family members need to take care of the older family members to supplement their finances? If they can't afford everything, bring them into their homes because they can no longer afford rent or a
Yeah.
mortgage. And I mean, there are a lot of plans. You hear about things like reverse mortgages, and you hear about other things that people can do. But again, well, that's helpful for some people. It doesn't work for others.
No.
It's
I,
not
I don't
available.
have a house at this point. In my generation, it's going to be a big deal if I can get a house. So the reverse mortgages and things won't necessarily carry for all of us. But I also think it's I remember you guys planting the seed. Mom in particular, I feel like, was like, I got to get on this and start planting the seed in middle school is what I remember, where she'd be like, you better take care of me in my old age. And like her shop, we're like
Yeah.
going down the cereal aisle, you better take care of me in my old age, and keep going.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I remember going, I'm going to put you in a nice retirement home because I don't want you in my basement, kind of a thing. And she still is very bitter that I would put her in a retirement home. But yeah, I don't know how all that's going to work. But
Yeah.
maybe a year from now, I'm hoping we'll be debt free and I could talk about this in more context of actually having looked at it. I am doing matching at my work with 401k, but
But
that's
again,
it's real.
it,
It's little.
and what
So
used to
little.
be, and I just, by the way, I just put the link to the article that we were that I referred to earlier and read a little bit from. There's a lot of very interesting information in this article. I've put the links in our chat.
I agree,
And
Carissa.
yeah, and Carissa's saying, money management. The other thing that comes to mind is, we're kind of wrapping this up.
Mm.
We're going to need to wrap up, but is what you need to be able to be self-sufficient in retirement. The amount of money, the
Right.
amount of income, it has changed drastically. Yes, some of that is inflation and changes over time, and just that everything costs more now than it used to. And relatively speaking, what was that amount worth 20 years ago or 30 years ago? But overall, just the amount that it takes to not just be comfortable in retirement, but in some cases to be above poverty,
Yeah.
self-sufficiency levels, has increased dramatically. And so what people thought they were saving for, even some of the
Right.
boomers, right, like me, thought they were saving for 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when they were first entering the job market, and maybe were making those efforts. It's like, okay, if I save up this much, or maybe, working even with a money manager, well, if you save this much, then in retirement, you'll have this much per year.
Right.
And what they thought was accounting for inflation,
Not anymore.
not necessarily anymore.
Well, okay, so a positive, I think, to start wrapping this up, is that the solution here, I'm going to give you the solution because I know it.
Okay.
I know the thing.
Do it.
The solution here is, I think, to not wait for retirement, to find those relaxing times, those joyful times in your everyday.
Yeah.
So
That's
that you
part of
aren't
it.
constantly working towards the thing going, I'll be happy when I
When I
retire.
retire.
Right? So that's a piece that I feel like I've tried to cultivate, Dustin's tried to cultivate in our home, of just making sure we have time for us, time for hobbies.
That is definitely
Granted, we don't
part
have
of it.
kids, but
Yeah.
the kids can also then become
Well,
your positive, right?
That was part of it for your mom and me. I mean, before we retired, we started taking some of our income and resources and doing some of the things that we had talked about for years. We
Right.
kept saying we wanted to take particular trips. And granted, not everybody has the freedom financially or in other ways to do this, but we started making those decisions and saying we're not going to wait. Part of that was I remember working with a guy, and he and his partner were taking cool trips every year. And I mentioned that to him. I said, man, I wish my wife and I could do that. And he said, he said, I watched my parents talk about all these things they wanted to do, and they waited until retirement. So when we retire, we will. And then both of them got ill shortly after they retired and weren't able to do those things. He said, I'm doing it now while I've got the health. And again, boy, that sounds great. It's very simplistic, and it's not available to everybody. But I think your point is right. I think your point is correct, is that part of it is not putting off doing things. It doesn't have to be expensive things. It doesn't have to be taking international trips and stuff. It's finding those things that fulfill you as an individual. And we say, well, I don't have time. You have as much time as you choose to prioritize.
Yeah. When was the last time you went on a scavenger hunt or had a picnic?
Right?
Those things don't cost a whole lot of money.
Or if you have family, pulled out a board game and set it on the table and just turned off the TV and just played something, got outside and threw a Frisbee in the park or what. I mean, that's not an answer to the retirement issues, but I think that there is a key point here in saying
the emotional
live
side
life
of
now
it.
too.
Yeah, the emotional side of it, but also as another positive. Do you want to tell them what you're doing now?
Well, yeah, you mentioned that your work is in working with standardized patients, and I wanted to be doing something, and so I very recently you showed me some site, nudged me, but also shared with me some medical schools here in Spokane, some universities that had medical school programs. And I have now signed up, applied for and signed up, and I'm getting started being a standardized patient, using some of my acting skills and just my desire to make a difference, and be one of those people who goes in and allows medical students to practice diagnosing by utilizing me as a simulated representative of patients exhibiting different symptoms. Your mom just got a gig. It was a consulting company that she was aware of and wanted to work for after retirement, that she had done a lot of, had an opportunity to have contractors and consultants from this company working with her when she was in her career, and felt very strongly about this company, and she applied to be a consultant for this company earlier this year, and has just gotten her first gig and is getting ready to head to the East Coast to get started. It'll be a hybrid opportunity, so she'll be home still much of the time, but will be on site there, and I'll get to go and spend some time with her on the East Coast while she's working for this company. So I mean, it's a lot more to it than that, but again, this is for us. It'll be play money. This will be the money that we're making to be able to go on trips. You want me to put Kathy?
You don't have to put it up there. You do
Kathy,
need to
will you have to have
question.
enemas? The answer is no. Quite simply, Kathy Garlick asking, will you have to have enemas? There are a lot of things I won't have to do. A lot of it is with these standardized patients, is that it's conversations. It's teaching the medical students how to ask the right questions and engage verbally, and listening skills and that type of thing. And yes, I mean, they listen to your heart, they take your blood pressure, that type of thing, to practice doing that, but it's not invasive. So there are many things that I won't have to do. Yeah. But anyway, these are things that will be beneficial to us, both in terms of keeping us busy, but also providing that play money. Okay, a lot more that we could talk about here, and I want to continue to see your comments. So you can continue to add comments in the chat. If you tuned in live today, again, I want to thank you. Hopefully we've acknowledged all of you. If you're tuning in later and watching this recorded, you can still be part of the conversation, and I would certainly invite you to do that. Any last thoughts from you before we talk about what's coming up?
Just that I'm a very lazy host. I may not go back and answer any questions you put in after the fact, but I'll
throw you under the bus and give them your direct contact info. All right, here's what's coming.
These buses.
I mean, it's a lot of buses.
Can convert
here's
one
what's
of them
coming
to a
up in the next
home.
few weeks. I'm going to ask you potentially to be back in some of these next few weeks as a co-host, because some of these were your ideas. Dream job. What was, and it's interesting how some of these do sort of blend together in terms of the topics, overlapping or at least relating to each other. Now, when you came up with this idea,
is funny.
Are you thinking in terms of more, if you could have worked your dream job, what would it have been? Are we talking about people who actually are active or have been active in a career and ask them, what was your dream job? What was your best job? Is it
I
more?
think you could go both ways, and I
Okay.
think there's a pendulum of like even the crazy dream jobs, like when you
When
were
I
a
was a
kid
kid,
and
I
you
wanted
want
to
to
be
be an
I
astronaut.
wanted to be an astronaut. So there you go. So,
I didn't know that about you, but I knew that about you.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
I still want him to be able to go up to, like, one of my dreams is that I'd be able to pay for Dad to go up to the space
International
hotel,
Space Station. Oh,
the
yeah,
space
yeah.
hotel that'll be opening up
Yeah.
2025 or something.
In 2 weeks. And by the way, I'm going to mention right up front, I mentioned that Carol's getting ready to travel for this new gig of hers, and I'm going to be traveling at least part of the time to spend time with her on the East Coast because she'll be out there sometimes for a few weeks at a time. That may or may not postpone some of our coffee breaks. If we have to postpone a Saturday, you'll see that on the Facebook page and know that we're putting something off. But right now, this is the plan. And next week would be the dream jobs. In 2 weeks, we're going to talk about who is your best boss and who is your worst boss. And we're
naming names.
we're going to be
Oh.
we're going to be a little bit cautious about this because we don't want to throw people under the bus. Maybe we do. I don't know. We like buses and throwing
Apparently,
people. So.
maybe that's just this week. This week is all about the buses. We'll have used them all up by next week.
Yeah. But in this one, if we stay on track, in 3 weeks, we are going to be celebrating the 200th episode of Coffee Breaks with Steve. And exactly what will take place during that, haven't decided for sure yet. But one of the things we're going to be talking about are some new things we're going to be adding. Not going to be making any drastic changes to Coffee Breaks, but there are some things we're talking about doing to sort of add more ways to connect through Coffee Breaks, and we're going to be sharing some of those that we expect to be launching.
Congratulations on that, by the way.
I don't know, man. It's been a bit of a journey, and and a fun one. Again, what do you do in retirement? I actually started Coffee Breaks before I retired, but it has become much more something to invest in the last year and a half or so. So, all right, what are the topics you'd like to see us discuss and be part of the discussion on? But because you have shared some of them, but others can do that too, right?
That's very true.
I invite people to.
I private message my ideas to him in a big long list.
But you can, and which you can do if we're connected on Facebook, and many of us are. You can send me a private message through Facebook Messenger, or you can send emails to cbwsteve@comcast.net to share your ideas. Just also a reminder that Coffee Breaks with Steve episodes are available on several podcast sites, Facebook as well.
Have you drunk all your coffee?
I haven't had all my coffee yet. I'm going to need more. And also just a reminder that we have a YouTube channel. That's really kind of weird right now because that thing is on there. Take that off. We have a YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel kind of overlaps with our Facebook page, but we're going to be doing a lot more as we talk about some of the new things we're going to be adding. There's going to be a lot more on YouTube. And so I just encourage you, a lot of you have already signed up as subscribers on the YouTube channel, but you can also share that with other people you know, because with all the great guests and co-hosts that we have, we want to make sure that the word's getting out about this and that other people have a chance to engage in our topics and meet our wonderful guests.
I'm still gunning for I really want to see Meryl Streep on here at some point.
Yeah, I know you do.
Meryl, if you're out there.
Yeah, and there are other people,
Coffee Breaks.
I mean, I would love for a number of A-list celebrities to come on here, but so far, not. But I'll tell you something.
So far,
listen,
everybody who comes on here is an A-list celebrity.
That's what I was going to say, is that whether they're a celebrity or not, all the people we have on here are A-list. And if you've been a regular tuning into Coffee Breaks, you know that we have some fantastic guests and some great topics, and you get to be part of the conversation. So I just want to encourage.
This is going to be my big break. Somebody's going to be like, "Who's that?"
They're going to see you crawling out of the bed, in a bathrobe, no makeup,
and be like, "Who that?"
We need that. We need her.
Get that girl on the phone. Somebody tell me her name.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, listen, thank you for tuning in today. Thank you. This was a great conversation. And again, I hope we didn't leave you depressed about your situation.
Every day to the
Live
fullest.
every day to the fullest. And the other thing that you can do, we talked about this with National Nonprofit Day, but it's really every day, is that we all are aware of situations around us, people around us, circumstances around us, things that we're passionate about, and including sometimes gnomes. And but I would just say this: find a way to make a difference in your world this week. God bless you. Have a great week. Shalane, thanks for being here. We'll see you all soon. See you next time.